They say real wolves move in silence, but Anthony "Wolf" Jones, his silence echoed louder than most men's roars until one night in Atlanta, it all ended in a blaze of bullets and secrets. This is the chilling true story of a man who stood behind rap royalty, protected moguls, and moved through hip-hop's most dangerous underworld circles. But in the end, not even loyalty could save Wolf from a deadly setup. Do you think loyalty is still worth dying for? Drop your answer in the comments. Because in Wolf's world, loyalty wasn't a slogan, it was a blood pact. Let's go deeper. From Harlem to heavyweight, what made Wolf dangerous wasn't his muscle, it was his mind. Born and raised in Harlem, Anthony Jones grew up during the crack era when every block was a chessboard and every move could cost your life. He didn't speak much, but when he did, people listened. He wasn't just another corner kid chasing a come up. Wolf had discipline. He studied the streets the way a general studies war. By his late teens, he wasn't following orders, he was giving them. Harlem bred hustlers, but it also built tacticians. Wolf was one of the few who could move like a boss and keep his name out the headlines. Wolf mastered power without needing attention. That's what made him lethal. Inside Bad Boy security, Wolf didn't just work for Bad Boy, he was Bad Boy behind the scenes. When Puff Daddy started making noise in the 90s, he knew he needed more than a security detail. He needed a trusted street presence. Someone who could read danger before it showed up. That was Wolf. He became Diddy's go-to protector. But this wasn't just a job. It was a relationship built on trust and silence. Wolf wasn't your typical hired hand. He handled internal beefs, smoothed over violent disputes, and kept problems away from the cameras. You didn't even know there was a fire, because Wolf put it out before it burned. In Diddy's world, Wolf wasn't a bodyguard. He was the firewall. The Club New York shooting. December 1999, Club New York. One of the most infamous moments in hip-hop history. A shooting erupted involving Diddy, Jennifer Lopez, and rapper Shine. Chaos exploded in seconds, glass breaking, people ducking, security scrambling. And who was right in the middle of it, holding it down? Wolf. Eyewitnesses say he was calm under fire, moving like a man who'd already seen this play out in his head. He secured Diddy, cleared a path, and allegedly coordinated cleanup efforts that night. Some say he even helped get key people out before law enforcement locked the scene down. That night wasn't just about bullets. It was about loyalty and survival. The rise of the street diplomats. Wolf didn't limit his loyalty to Diddy. He was a connector, an underground diplomat. Harlem knew him. The South respected him. And in Atlanta, he was carving out a network built on relationships, not just fear. Wolf didn't talk much, but he moved with influence. He built alliances with major players, guys who didn't sit in studios, but in trap houses and boardrooms. Wolf was that rare figure who could speak to killers and moguls with the same calm confidence. And when street beefs threatened rap dollars, he played middleman, squashing problems before they hit headlines. Wolf turned street cred into corporate leverage. Quiet but effective. The Wolf and Big Meech connection. This wasn't just a casual friendship. Wolf and Big Meech, head of BMF, shared something deeper: mutual code, mutual vision, and mutual enemies. In the early 2000s, BMF wasn't just moving product, they were moving culture. Wolf respected that. The respect was returned. Meech knew Wolf wasn't flashy, but he was real. And in a world full of fakes, that meant everything. Their alliance wasn't about greed, it was about survival. In a space where money, music, and murder danced together, Wolf became an ambassador between Bad Boy and the streets. But getting too close to that fire, that's how you end up burned. Wolf wasn't just plugged in, he was the plug's plug. Atlanta, a new playground, a new threat. When Wolf moved to Atlanta, it wasn't a retirement, it was expansion. The music scene was booming, the street economy was alive, and Harlem legends like Wolf were welcome, but always watched. Atlanta was no playground, it was a battlefield with Southern rules. And Wolf? He brought Harlem rules. He operated with a different level of discipline, which earned him both respect and enemies. He wasn't the loudest, but everyone knew he had the reach to get things done, from club security to backstage access to street decisions. But not everyone in Atlanta liked the shift in power. New territory means new enemies, especially when you carry old power. The tension with Anthony, Wolf, and Riz were once tight. Both Harlem made, both respected. But in the streets, respect can sour fast when money, pride, or perceived disrespect enter the room. Rumors of a fallout circled for months. Some say a deal went bad. Others claim it was about territory and influence in Atlanta. Whatever it was, it turned cold. No shouting matches, no public beef, just eerie silence and heavy stares. The kind of silence that comes before gunshots. The streets knew something was brewing. And between Wolf and Riz, that kind of tension wasn't just about who pulled first. It was about who survived. In the street chessboard, a silent beef is a ticking time bomb. The night of the shooting Compound Club, November 2003, Compound nightclub in Atlanta. A regular night out turned fatal in minutes. Wolf and his friend Lamont Gertie got into an argument outside the club. Witnesses say it was quick, intense, and personal. Within seconds, gunfire erupted. Shots rang out in rapid succession. When it was over, Wolf and Gertie were dead. No chance to draw, no words exchanged. It was surgical. The suspect, Riz, he turned himself in days later, claiming self-defense, but the streets weren't convinced. It felt too precise, too sudden, too personal. The timing? Chilling. That night changed everything and raised more questions than answers. Was it a hit or a beef gone wrong? Self-defense or strategic takedown? That's been the question ever since. Some insiders say Riz felt threatened. Wolf wasn't a man you crossed without consequence. Others believe Riz was pressured to make a move, maybe even manipulated. There were whispers of outside forces pulling strings. Maybe Wolf was too connected. Maybe he knew too much. Or maybe someone feared what he might say, or what he'd never say. When the most disciplined man in the room dies unexpectedly, people don't just ask who shot him. They ask, who wanted him silent? Wolf's death felt like a warning, not just a tragedy. Diddy's reaction and silence. After Wolf's death, one name stayed noticeably quiet: Sean "Diddy" Combs. No grand statement, no emotional press release, no public funeral footage, just silence. To the outside world, it looked like distance. But insiders wondered, was it grief or strategy? Some say Diddy mourned privately. Others believe he knew more than he could say. After all, this was a man tied to both Wolf and the Club New York shooting. Too much noise could have opened too many doors. And in this industry, silence isn't weakness, it's self-preservation. When the powerful go quiet, it's rarely random. The FBI, BMF, and unsolved threads. Wolf's death didn't just shake the streets, it got the feds curious. See, this wasn't just a shootout between two Harlem dudes in Atlanta. Wolf had deep ties to BMF, and his sudden death came right as the government was tightening its grip on Big Meech and his empire. Timing, suspicious. Some believe Wolf's killing removed a potential witness or a barrier. Others say his murder accelerated federal heat on BMF. Either way, Wolf's name appeared in more than street conversations. It landed in sealed case files and quiet investigations. Wolf's silence didn't stop the whispers, it amplified the surveillance. What the streets still say. Years later, Wolf's name still lives in backroom conversations. Not as gossip, but as a ghost. In barbershops, on Harlem benches, and in Atlanta clubs, the same question always comes up. Did Riz act alone? Some say he didn't have the heart or motive to do it without influence. Others hint Wolf was too powerful. Someone wanted him removed to stabilize things. The silence surrounding the details only fueled speculation. People who were once loud about Wolf's greatness suddenly hushed when asked about that night. That tells you something. If nobody's talking, it's not because they forgot. It's because they remember too well. The legacy in Harlem. To Harlem, Wolf isn't gone. He's legend. His name still echoes in the bricks. Not as a rapper, not as a criminal, but as a soldier who stood on his word. Wolf mentored younger guys, protected those who couldn't fight for themselves, and never switched sides. He represented a lost code of conduct where loyalty, respect, and silence were more valuable than fame. Ask the OGs, they'll tell you, Wolf was a rare breed. Harlem raises many, but it only honors a few. And Wolf's memory is still protected like family. Some names don't need a mural, just respect in every corner. Diddy's bodyguards a pattern of tragedy? Wolf wasn't the first.
Jake Robles, another of Diddy close protectors. To Jake Robles, a close friend of Death Row Records.
Similar silence. Add to that a history of Diddy associates getting caught up in controversy, Club New York, violent incidents, even whispers of cover-ups. While no direct blame lands on Diddy, the pattern is hard to ignore. Bodyguards around him don't just take bullets, they vanish in ways that stir more questions than answers. Being next to power in hip-hop, it might get you a check, but it can also get you targeted. Some positions pay in status, others in blood. Lessons in loyalty, Wolf's final act. Wolf had options. He could have walked away. He had enough clout to run his own operation, live low, or even flip allegiances. But he didn't. He stayed loyal to Diddy, to Harlem, to his code. Even when things got messy, Wolf kept his mouth shut. And in the end, that silence may have cost him his life. Some call it foolish. Others call it honorable. Either way, it was final. In a world where betrayal is currency, Wolf chose conviction over convenience and died with his principles intact. He didn't fold. He didn't talk. He died standing. The mystery of the missing tapes. Security footage from the night Wolf was gunned down? Gone. Witnesses that were present? Disappeared. Some said the cameras at Compound nightclub weren't working. Others claimed someone higher up made sure that footage never surfaced. Even police reports seemed vague in key spots. It felt like the night had been scrubbed clean before the ink dried. And when you're dealing with high-profile figures, well-connected enemies, and federal investigations, convenient gaps start to look like intentional cover-ups. The silence after Wolf's death wasn't just human, it was digital. The family left behind. Wolf wasn't just Diddy's protector or BMF's associate. He was a father, a son, a brother, and a friend. His loved ones didn't care about street clout or media narratives. They wanted answers. They wanted justice. And most of all, they wanted peace. But peace never came. His children had to grow up with rumors instead of closure. His family had to watch documentaries that glorified his life, but skipped over the pain. For them, Wolf's story wasn't legend, it was loss. Behind every street tale is a family still grieving in silence. Could Wolf have been saved? Could he have walked away? Maybe. Could he have predicted betrayal? Maybe. But when you live by a code, there are no half measures. Wolf believed in standing firm, even when the ground crumbled beneath him. He had the intelligence to escape, the connections to pivot, but the heart wouldn't let him. And in the world he came from, walking away isn't just hard, it's often seen as betrayal. He chose the path few can walk, and even fewer survive. Some call it street honor, others call it street suicide. Either way, it was a decision only Wolf could make. He wasn't trapped, he was committed. Anthony Wolf Jones wasn't just a bodyguard, he was a ghost in plain sight. A man who understood loyalty better than most, who kept his circle tight and his mouth tighter. He moved through one of the most dangerous intersections of music, money, and murder without ever seeking attention. But even the quietest wolves can't outrun the pack forever. His death wasn't just tragic, it was a signal. A reminder that in the world of power, silence, and street loyalty, no one is untouchable. Wolf's life is a cautionary tale, but it's also a legacy. A story of a man who never folded, never snitched, and never let fear shape his decisions. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who respects real loyalty. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Wolf was targeted? Or was it just the street catching up? Next week, we dive into another underworld icon, someone whose story has also been buried under rumors and silence. Turn on notifications. You don't want to miss it.